Welcome, everyone. I'm glad you're here. I think what we're going to talk about and discuss today is how to write lyrics. Maybe not so much how, maybe some ideas about writing lyrics, maybe some how to, I don't know. But I know that the first thing you're going to ask is, who are you and what have you done that I should listen to you? And I'm going to cut to the chase. I am no one and I have done nothing to speak of that you should listen to me. But give me a minute to make my case. See, my advantage is I am just like you. I am not famous or published to speak of. But what I do have is I have this desire to see you become what I always dreamed that I could be, a successful lyricist and songwriter. That is my sincere hope and desire. It is my concern to help you, maybe even hopefully inspire you to write more lyrics. But let me put a little caveat there: to help you write more meaningful lyrics. I go by the stage name Gideon Sword. I go by the stage name Gideon Sword, though I never really appear on stage. My real name is Sean Arndt. I've been writing songs for over 40 years, songs that almost no one has ever heard except for a very small but loyal fan base comprised of, well, my friends and family. I still can't believe I'm going to go on record saying this as I said it in the last video, but here it goes. I am probably the greatest lyricist that you have never heard of. Now, I know it sounds prideful, and I don't mean, and it's not meant to be prideful. Really, it really is not prideful. There's a specific reason for this, and I will touch on this a little bit in this video, but more so in another video. So, but just know that it's not intended to be prideful. There's a very specific reason. I think that if you can catch this idea, when I finally, expand upon it and share it with you, it'll unlock treasures untold. So, um, now let me preface this by telling you what I did not say. I did not say I'm a great singer, I'm a great guitar player, because I am. I am a lyricist, I'm a guitar player, I'm a musician. Sometimes I have a hard time saying that I'm a musician and not just saying it's a hobby, but really it's an innate part of who I have been for well over 45 years. So I am a musician, maybe not the greatest musician. I mean, definitely not the greatest musician. Maybe not even that talented, but one thing I am gifted with is a sense of creativity and the ability to write lyrics. And I've been doing that for 40 years. Now, I'm not a great singer. I've been told on many occasions that I'm not the greatest musician or singer. I've been told to the contrary on more than one occasion. So, and there's part of me that hopes, who knows, and maybe the the divine hand of God will intervene, the stars will align, or the winds of fortune will blow in such a way that some kindred like-minded people would find this video, these videos, and we could do something special. I mean, that's really my hope and desire deep, deep, deep down inside. So, but let's move on. You see, the reason why I'm making this video and this next couple sets of videos is a while ago, my daughter, and I don't know how long ago it was, because I've been sick for pretty much 2 years. And when you're sick all the time, you lose track of time. Time is funny, it just passes by like that. You're 12, I mean, you're 5 years old and you're dressing up for Halloween with a sheet over your head with two eye holes cut out. You're 10 years old and you're playing in Pop Warner, well, maybe 12 years old, playing in Pop Warner football in Fairport, Ohio. Next thing you know, you're in junior high school, and you move from the Midwest to the West Coast. The next thing you know, you're in high school, and get involved in all kinds of shenanigans and failing classes, and then you get out of school and for me, I did all kinds of precarious things. Um, then you get your first job, you um, you get married, you go to college, you have your first child, and it's like you wake up from being 5, 8, 12, 18, 24, 30, 32, 36, and the next thing you know, you're 52 years old. And so, it's just time. Time is time. And just by the way, too, time is a great subject for writing song lyrics, writing lyrics, period, writing poetry. It's something that none of us can escape. It's always been victorious, time and death. I mean, so there are those things. So my daughter, she asked me, she said, Dad, how do you write song lyrics? And I thought about it, and I said, honey, it was just how hard it was hard for me to quantify it. I spent a lot of nights just sitting there in bed, not able to sleep. How can I impart this one thing that I know that that I have been gifted with to my daughter? And I have to admit that I failed. I didn't know. I don't know how to explain in many respects how to write song lyrics, because my process is while not while not unique or normal, it's not absolutely abnormal either. It's like a hybrid of somewhere in between. You listen to people who write song lyrics, and it's like there's some both. There's this normative, there's this abnormal, and so it's somewhere between those. So I know I'm not really being clear right now, and it's because I don't really know how to quantify it. I don't know how to make it tangible. But I do want to say before I go any further that it troubles me that I'm unable to impart this to her. And so that's part of why I'm making this video is for her, but also to share with anybody else who might want to, write song lyrics and see just if I can piece this together, at least in some maybe, disconnected, maybe some connected way. We'll see how it goes. So I've got like 10 ideas, because it's not that I didn't tell her anything. Okay. I did tell her some things, but I did not tell her the essence, the central aspect about how I write song lyrics, because it's something that is unique to an individual for it to happen. So we'll get into that in another video, and I'm kind of being oblique or kind of vague on purpose. But we'll get to that in maybe the next video, maybe the next one after that. But so let me go over these like 10 ideas that I kind of gave her, or general aspects about, lyric writing that might be helpful to someone. First of all, and I think this is one of the most important aspects, period, and that is capture the moment of inspiration. And that will literally mean that you have to stop what you're doing in order to record it, because the moment of inspiration hangs in the tender balance between transmission and omission, or disappearance. It can come like that, and it can go like that. Years ago, my wife would be so frustrated with me because she'd go to do laundry, and she still gets frustrated because like you never know what's going to be in my pockets. I've tried to get better, but there's always change. There's always, now that I have long hair, there's always hair ties, cough drops, receipts, but also over the years, there have always been pieces of paper, whether they are little, just tiny pieces of paper, or, napkins folded up or paper towels folded up, um, just whatever I could find, I would write on in the moment of inspiration, and then I just throw it in my pocket and kind of forget about it. And it would drive her crazy finding these. And there's a twofold to it because, yeah, I mean, it's kind of inconvenience going through somebody's pockets and finding all this stuff when you want to just get laundry done. Why can't I just, be responsible and take all the stuff out of my pockets? But there's also the aspect because to her credit, she is like one of my, if not my biggest fan. It's like tie between her and my daughter and my friend that just recently passed away last May, and that are my biggest fans when it comes to music and lyric writing. And there's a few other people I can think of too, that I've met through uh, a band lab. So you know, one friend in Wales really inspires me because he enjoys my lyric writing. So, uh, anyways, with that said, to my wife's credit, instead of, just throwing them away because she's angry, she, though she's frustrated, trying to do laundry and finding these, at the same sense, she's also frustrated because she doesn't want these lyrics that I've written, lyrics that she, like, if she'll look at them and read them and she's just like so blessed by them. She likes them so much that she doesn't want to see them lost to the washing machine or to the trash can, So, to her credit, she always saved them for me. And over the years, I've become more adept to trying to actually save them in electronic formats, so that way they're easier to print and type and read because sometimes my handwriting. But anyways, to get back to the main point, it's like I would be in the cafe working, and all of a sudden this thought comes to me, and go over to just above the hand washing sink, paper towel dispenser, click it a few times, tear off a piece of paper towel, and I just start writing lyrics. Or I'd be in a booth in a restaurant, or at a table in a restaurant, and I would take a napkin and I would just start writing, words that I was inspired to write based on whatever reason I was inspired to write them. So I want to reiterate this point. I know it's like, oh, you're belaboring it, but it's so important. You have to take advantage of it, capture the moment of inspiration, because it hangs in the tender balance between transmission and omission or disappearance, never to probably be found again. And I know this from experience. Now, the second um, idea is be attentive to your surroundings, because the art of observation is the friend of inspiration. Looking around, whether it's, in the natural world or whether it's in in our um, social surroundings, whether it's a line or something that appears on TV in a movie. Those have been sources of inspiration. I was reading a autobiography of Malcolm Muggeridge one time, and he used this term "dark horse in winter," and I was just so struck by those words, and so I took those words and I wrote the title at the top of the page, and then just all this kind of, I guess it's kind of like an apocalyptic. There's a song that I've put together using somebody else's music. That's one of the great things about like a social media site, like say for example, a music site like BandLab, was somebody had this music that didn't have lyrics, and so I was able to put lyrics to it, and so um, take those lyric "Dark Horse in Winter" and put that to it. But it's like that reading that book, that just those couple words, 2 words, inspired a song to be written, and it's like right now, you know I'm looking at, I have this picture behind me. Last video, the picture kind of fell down and you got to see like the Wizard of Oz behind the scenes. There's like books that surround me everywhere, all around me. In front of me, there's bookshelves where my eBay inventory is, to the right, to the left, behind me. I have stacks of shelves, another row, and like three more rows back that way. I have about 9,000 items listed on eBay. So, anyways, one time for a song I wrote called Retreating Horizons, um, I was like, I repeated myself too much in this song, because it's like repeating this idea over and over and over, because that was the initial aspect of inspiration. Then I was like, I need to expand upon the lyrics. And I was like, what should I do? And so just kind of live, I kind of got this idea. I looked at one book. And so as I looked at that one book, it inspired me to write more lyrics. And so it was just kind of like, it wasn't written, it was like mental on the go, that I wrote these song lyrics from just titles on the spines of books, like, for example, Embezzled Heaven, or Kingdom in the Sun, or narcissistic predicaments, or Mongolian cloud houses. And, I kind of tied all these together, and it was just a really beautiful moment of, like I said, inspiration, but also being attentive to my surroundings, all these books around me. So the art of observation is the friend of inspiration. Be attentive of your surroundings. Now, kind of, if you were to take this, you could say this is like next to, or like A and B, but I'm going to say these are separate, but they're connected to the one we just went over. Number 3, be aware of your emotions and feelings, because in them is the universal language of human experience. There is not anything that we typically experience that someone else hasn't already experienced. And one of the biggest lies that we can like tell ourselves, I don't know where it comes from internally, or how it just untangibly comes into our hearts and minds. But, something happens, we experience something, we go through some emotional experience, and we feel like we're the only one that's ever gone through that. Come on, you haven't ever felt like you're the only one. No one's ever felt like you do. No one's ever experienced what you experienced. And then all of a sudden you hear a song, words, you read lyrics, or you hear something and you go, whoa, somebody else. And it sparks in you a sense of hope. Like, it's just enough to get you through, knowing that you're not alone, that you're not the only one, that you're not isolated on the fringe somewhere. So be aware of your emotions and feelings, because in them is the language of human experience. Number 4, be mindful of the emotions and feelings of others. Not only are the experience of others sparks to ignite the flame of inspiration, but they also provide an outlet, and even sometimes an inlet, to ourselves, or outside of ourselves. It's an outlet outside of ourselves, and an inlet sometimes. Seeing outside, we get a look within. And I think this is actually a very important aspect, and I'm not going to elaborate on it here, but, I said number 1, capture the moment of inspiration, is like the most important aspect of lyric writing. And I think pretty well up there is this idea of being aware of the emotions and feelings of others, or being focused on others. But we'll talk about that later. I don't want to get into that too much right now, but I just want to leave it kind of hanging there for a moment. The 5th is to try to tap in. So, it's, once again, try to tap into pain, sorrow, and anger, disappointment, disillusionment, all these negative, quote unquote, negative human emotions and feelings, because once again, these speak to the human experience. These are good bases for trying to write lyrics. I mean, within this realm is also love. I mean, how many songs are written about love, or maybe a deviation of love, more lust, trying to seduce, someone. But so many lyrics are written like in, about some type of amorous or, uh, state, So it's unending, really. But there's also things that we can write about, like health and joy and contentment and satisfaction and peace. I mean, it can go on and on and on and on and on. I mean, I'm just giving you pieces here and there, and you can take these, you know, as a starting point, but really, as the moment of inspiration comes upon you, you will be able to apply this in your own way. Number 6 is pay attention to current events. These can be a great source of inspiration, unrest. For me, the apocalyptic tends to be a source of inspiration. I wrote a song called Apocalyptic Love Song, where I imagine, this young couple that they just fall in love, and, and they're about to kiss as they find out that the bomb is coming for them. And so it's just like, how do they feel about this? And, or other ones like, Dark Horse in Winter, or Piece by Piece. That's a song, that I wrote in 1993 or so, 1992, 93, 94, that, talks about war and destruction, and, probably a little bit inspired by War Pigs by Black Sabbath, who I've always loved that song because of its imagery. So, there's just so many different ways that current events can inspire lyric writing. But I want to kind of give a nuance or a caveat, maybe. Do it without being consumed by them and also becoming one sided, whether it's to the right conservatively, super ultra, or it's to the left super progressively, whatever, without becoming so ideologically bound to interpreting current events by those things. And I know that some of you are going to go, well, how can I don't, I don't know how you can totally separate that. I'm just saying, be careful of just constantly attaching ideology to current events, because it is in these like current events that, regardless of our ideological affiliations, we all experience life's best and worst moments. It's good to be reminded that we have a shared human experience, and that they're really, in that aspect of it, beyond the ideology, say for example, the bomb is going to be dropped. The politics of whether you're super ultra conservative or you're super ultra progressive don't mean a thing when you're about to be obliterated. I mean, seriously. We all will be in that same situation where there's a sense of foreboding, fear, and dread that comes, So, oh, don't fall. I don't want that to fall. It fell just a little bit ago, and I re-recorded the video. So, pay attention to current events without being consumed and becoming one-sided, whether left or right. Number 7, don't worry too much about perfect grammar, style, or technique. All of these are tools and very important ones that aid in expression and inspiration, but remember that they are not replacements for creativity. The moment of creativity comes. It's not going to wait for you to have the perfect grammar, have the perfect structure, have the perfect, style. I mean, sometimes it kind of happens, mostly, but it doesn't always happen like that. You just have to capture the moment of inspiration. And after the initial moment of inspiration, these can be important aspects of the polishing process. And there are times where they can be bent and broken. So don't worry too much about perfect grammar, style, or technique. The idea really is just to write and express. Now, number 8, be open. And this one is probably the hardest one. And this is kind of why it's hard for me to, it's not kind of, it is why it's hard for me to explain my process of songwriting. I'm not going to elaborate on this right now, but however it may come, be open and listen to the intangible voice that speaks to you. And it can come through 1,000 different vehicles and 1,000,000 different ways. It can come through nature, birds singing, cloud formations. It can come through conversations, something intelligent, just like, it's a lot like the first one, but it can just, it's intangible. It just be open to that, because if you listen to a lot of songwriters, they say, I don't know where it comes from. It just comes, that moment of inspiration, and it's like, for example, I think about Dog and the Butterfly by Heart. That was inspired by a dog kind of chasing, a butterfly. And it's a very beautiful song. So, there's an example of being aware of your surroundings, capturing the moment of inspiration, being open to the intangible voice that speaks to you. Number 9, always work on building your vocabulary. I see, maybe I should have put this one as number 8 and then, the previous one is number 9, but whatever, it is what it is. Always work on building your vocabulary, because in doing so, you exponentially expand the range of creative exploration available to you. You make a deeper well to draw from when the moment of inspiration comes. And there are tools you can use, but don't be bound, tied to those tools. And if you use those tools, say for example, like synonyms and thesauruses, especially things like that, make sure you just don't actually try to use the word, a different way, but do it in a way that, not do it in a way, find out the meaning of that word, because in that nuance, it may expand the way you understand what you're writing and create a second line of inspiration or a third line or whatever. So always work on building your vocabulary. Number 10, and the final one for today, be prepared for criticism. There are always going to be critics. The world is full of them. Everybody thinks that they have an opinion about how to do everything. Isn't it in a sense what I'm doing here? I think I know how to write songs. I'm quote unquote proclaimed myself as the greatest lyric writer that you've never heard of. There are critics out there. There's always going to be critics. There's always going to be someone who doesn't get it, that doesn't resonate. Resonate. See? Perfect grammar. Great example. I like how that works out. You see, but though there will always be critics from without, sometimes, more often than not, the toughest critic is the one that comes from within. That critic often is never satisfied. It wants everything to quote unquote be perfect. And many times that quest for perfection lulls us into never doing anything. Trust me, that's the story of my life. The voices from without, the voices from within, allowing those to control me for so long that I never have done anything. I've always been afraid of the criticism. But cool thing about time, I said time is a good aspect, inspiration. If I didn't say it, I'm saying it now. For songwriting. I mean, it's universal, just like death. I mean, so it's like those two things are undefeated. Time is always going to keep taking place, and death, it happens at some point or another. Where was I? There's always going to be critics, and don't let it, that's the story of my life, being lulled into doing nothing. And, there's this funny thing about time. Now that I'm 52 years old, it's not to say that I handle criticism always better. There's still times that I don't do it as well as I could. I'm typically one of those person, and in the moment I don't like the criticism, but I'm also a reflective person, so it can drive me nuts, but it also can lead to revelation, understanding. It can lead to another inspiration because, see, when the critic actually has something valid to say, don't just push it off and say, "Oh, I'm going to take the critic with a grain of salt." If what the critic says is true, and maybe not, and if what they say is true, but also especially if they have like your best like intention in mind, I think that's a good place to actually stop and say, well, is this worth listening to? So sometimes you want to listen to the critic, even the critic within you, but it's a tender balance between the two. But if the critic comes in pretension, self-promotion, condescension, or belittling, or to seek to render you essentially ineffective or into doing nothing, well, that is the time that you don't listen to the critic and you take what they say with a grain of salt, whether it's from without or it's from within. I think that's a good place to end today's or conclude today's video. I sincerely appreciate you taking the time to listen to me ramble again and talk about what I love, lyrics. I haven't really talked about lyrics per se. I'm talking about the process or how to even begin the process based upon a question that my daughter asked me that I felt very inadequately. I answered very inadequately. Dad, how do you write lyrics? I hope and I wish the best for you in your journey of lyrical expression. If you find one thing helpful or inspiring, then I have my reward. If you have any comments, thoughts, or even suggestions, please feel free to do so in the comment section below. And I bid you Godspeed until we meet again.